Well, hi everybody, the name is Markiplier and welcome back to the Minecraft Guide. In today's episode, to help us get settled into the base location we picked last time, we're gonna build ourselves a brand new starter house, and this time, make it a little bit bigger and better. We're gonna talk some build tips and tricks you need to know along the way. But before we can do all of that, it's story time. You see, I'm a changed man. In between episodes, I went on a long journey. I trekked all the way back over to the starter house. I collected all of our best friends. I grabbed our friends, I grabbed as many supplies as I could fit in my inventory at the time, and I set off on a big adventure. Eventually, after I completed a long trek back over to our base here, I set up a small hole for Camelotl and sat Bonzo down on the grass. After that, I left my two dear children unattended for an extended amount of time. You see, I had to go off to a forest nearby to chop down just about every single wood type in preparation for today's big build. The only reason this bit of the time-lapse is fully muted is because I was watching Etho doing a little bit of catching up on the lad himself, you know, and I completely forgot that I kind of needed the sound. So sorry about that.
The fire flippers?
And so that catches us up to about now, where you've got me, this stunningly handsome lad, fully loaded up with wood type inside of my inventory. Haha, I'm stocked. So legend, starter house. Jamie, pull up the picture. This is the inspiration for the starter house, and conveniently, I think we could basically exactly pull that off. I was taking a look around at the spot that we picked for our base here, and I think if I chopped down a couple of those trees right over there, I would have the perfect spot for like a starter house looking down this fjord right here, and having a big mountain in the background. A huge tip that I could give you for building a starter house is get that backdrop right. You see, not only if you can get the build right, but you can get the backdrop just right, and then you get the lens right. When you're looking at the thing, it will be simply breathtaking. Alright, so look, all of that is a really long way of introducing my dear friend, Tree Chopples. Let's do this. Jamie, pull that serene image back up for a second. Yeah, that one. So this right here, this is the tone setter, the palette creator for our entire starter base. Today, I promise for 100% certainty, near 100% certainty, that eventually at the starter base here, we'll have more than just one building built. But for today, we'll have one building built and... Oh, Bonzo, what's that? I forgot your request, how could I? That's right, when I was moving here, Bonzo requested something a little bit more fitting for the environment over here. Bonzo, the handsome lad himself, not afraid of the color pink, no, never. Bonzo, you're beautiful looking in pink. Come with me, move out of the way, you got soft hands, brother. You can't be in the middle of the build site, it's dangerous. Encapsulate the vibe, everything like that. Hopefully I don't cloud myself here, but I want to try and show you something that basically goes like counterproductive to every single Minecraft building video ever. Today, the challenge is pretty simple. Build a beautiful starter house, but also keep the shape like so simple, as in like maybe one single shape, and show you that indeed it can be done. You can build a beautiful looking starter house with just one shape. Yeah, that's right, count them. One shape. I mean, we're gonna have a porch sitting off the front of the thing, and I guess it's kind of like disconnected at different shapes, so maybe two, but essentially one shape. Out of just a single box, with the right blocks, you can build the most beautiful looking starter house in the world. Let's take a look at blocks and talk about block palettes. Obviously, on the build here, I'm going to use spruce wood. I think what I want to use is like unstripped spruce wood, that'll look really good, and then also stripped spruce wood as well. I envision like stripped spruce wood going up on the build looking really, really nice and clean. As goes for any type of build in the world, one shape or more than one shape, you're always going to want to figure out a block palette before jumping into the build. Like, what kind of blocks do you want to go out into your world and gather up in between episodes so you can actually like just build the build from start to finish? Definitely spruce, definitely like normal spruce wood, and absolutely cobblestone as well. Later on in the build, I'm thinking about coming in here with some oak wood too, and definitely dark oak wood, that'll look good. On the inside of the build, like maybe as in like right here, how about we do a little bit of cherry? I mean, after all, I want to match this build to the surrounding area. Now, I mean, of course, as we start to move on in the build, we're going to add more blocks to it, things like glass and other minor detailing blocks, but for the most part, that's kind of what I'm thinking when it comes to our detailing blocks here. Now, the front of the build here, I'm imagining some kind of grand, beautiful porch. On this grand, beautiful porch, I want to have windows looking out, and dead center in the middle, right over here, I want to have a door somewhere. Long story short, with all these words that I'm spewing out in your ears right now, I'm establishing that I have a mild vision, a somewhat plan for this build. As always, when you're going into any kind of build, not only do you want to know what kind of blocks you're probably going to use, but you also want to know kind of what you want the build to look like. Kind of what I want the build to look like. Let's see what we got here. We got 1, we got 2. This could be 3, this could be 4, and then maybe that'll be 5. Then we could like cut across the top. I find when building a build that I want to be like a little bit bigger, somewhat more grand feeling, 5 is a really nice height. Now what's going on here? We're gonna have the porch. It's gonna step up. Then we're gonna walk into the build, and the build will stay on the same level. All of that means that our 5 block starts with a cobblestone right there. A cobblestone base to make things nice and sturdy. I find when setting up some kind of humble starter house vibe, cobblestone is like perfect for keeping zombies away from your build. Where are you all coming from? Get out of here. I swear it's that cave, but I lit it up. Alright, so far, not too bad looking. I've carved out where I want to put a porch in. We'll get that in a little bit later on. And then I got that front wall shaped out. Window right there, big door or something right there in the middle. It'll probably be like pulled down. Maybe I could do like a small window, I don't know. And then another wall, symmetrical. I want to keep this build nice and symmetrical and cool looking. In the middle here, I got some blank spaces. In honor of the pop icon herself, to fill up those blank spaces, if you will, my wildest dream is incorporate a little bit of depth into the build. Can you imagine a build that has pink all over it, cobblestone on the bottom, but then spruce pillars going up? And to make it look even better, this time we incorporate depth, something we haven't done too much on all of the other builds. Depth, it's an amazing thing to incorporate into your build, and it will make it look more interesting. Now from my experience here, depth on a smaller build, kind of like the starter spawn house that we did, it could be difficult to incorporate when it comes to pillars. But if your build starts to scale up a little bit, like ours is definitely here today, well, if you're making your build get a little bit more grand, depth is a beautiful thing to incorporate in the form of pillars. But I'm out of spruce wood, and it's sad and tragic. And so lads, you know what that means. It's time for the very first spruce build hack of the entire world. Check this out. So this is going to be a little bit difficult. We got a giant drop over there. You just be careful. But check this out. I'm going to build out like 4 or 5 blocks away from the land. Alternatively, you could just make a staircase 3 or 4 blocks up into the air. After I build out, I'm going to build a small dirt pad. This pad could be 2 by 2, or you could expand it a little bit, make it 4 by 4. In the middle, I'm going to put 2 by 2 of spruce sapling. I don't have very much bone meal, so I'm not counting on it working, but one of the big problems with growing these gigantic spruce trees is podzol. However, if you can cut it off from the rest of the land, the podzol can't really spread down, and it can't spread out. This is going to trap all of the podzol from these giant spruce trees that I'm going to grow for the build today over here on this small floating island. With a small setup built like this over here, I can tear it down later, no thought required. And even more importantly, no podzol stains all over the ground. Alright, so another build tip from me to you. Your build should probably be more than one dimension. Let me catch this thing up a little bit. And so, my friends, just a little bit of time later, and the house is fully finished and move-in ready. The sky axis is intentional. Yeah. Alright, so I've done a little bit of work on the build clearly here, and thinking about what I want to do with the build. 100%, it's always a good idea to have multiple entrances on your build, just in case something bad happens. So front door, that's going to sit right there, and I'm definitely going to have to spice up that wall, but we'll talk about details later. Then, I'm thinking a side door on this side of the build right over here. We'll probably just match it for now. Over on the other side of the build, I was thinking big grand chimney, and absolutely, with this nice view off into the distance, I'm gonna have to come back in and figure out how I could add like windows to the side of this thing. Maybe even like just dig those out, I'm not too sure yet, but absolutely, windows on this side. On the back side of the build, because it is the back side of the build, technically speaking, you don't need to go as crazy and as hard when it comes to like detailing and whatever. Especially if you planned ahead and put a gigantic mountain right behind your build. You know. Now, while I've been working on this build, I chopped another tree down, you might have saw, and I also made a small farm over here. Absolutely. Not today, but absolutely. We're going to need to capture some cows, move them over here, and get a small farm going, so I can have more food. Bonzo, it's time for you to move. Come with me, brother. Let's move into the house. Come on. I'll detail the inside of the house maybe later this episode, maybe another time. I don't know. And so, bright and early, the very next morning, after the first night sleeping in my brand new house, I think it's time to talk about the roof of the build. Whoo boy, the roof of the build. This could be the trickiest part of a build. So inside of this little thing that I occasionally refer to as my brain, I've got a decent amount of different roof tips, tricks, and hacks and things like that for you. My number one is always to create an outline, or well, maybe not always, okay? But like 90% of the time, start by making an outline out of different blocks on a roof. And now on our little roof line that we're gonna set up here today, what I think I would like to do is have dark oak wood outlining the outside of the roof. Then as we start to move into the center of the roof, at least for the porch, I want to pop things up a little bit. I think that'll start to make the roof look more interesting. Just like with any other part of a Minecraft build, if you can add a little bit of depth and obviously variation in different block tones, colors, and maybe even textures, ooh, that's a good thing. You're on the right track. Now back over here on this wall, a great way to finish up a wall and make it feel solid and sturdy is maybe like frame it in fully all the way. I did it on the back of the build, I'm going to do it on the front of the build. As you can see here, the roof is going to continue up to where I'm framing this wall in. Now right here it's going to look a little bit weird for now, but we'll fill it in on the side lid. On the top of the roof, to fully finish off this portion, we'll continue the framing outline. If you're going with this framing outline technique that I'm using here, which maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I highly recommend, a great way to make your roof feel finished in one section is to follow that outline all the way around the roof. We're talking on the top, we're talking like cutting up the middle, we're talking on the front of the roof. With just a couple slabs placed down like that, I mean, it's like a just trust me bro moment. You can't see much, but I think it'll probably look okay. Porch of the build check done out of the way. That means it's time to move on to the next part of the roof. And whoo boy, this is where things are going to get a little bit more tricky. When it comes to building in Minecraft, how I see it, you got two categories. You've got freehand, and then you've got something that's like a little bit more calculated, whatever you want to call it. For this slightly more calculated method of building, you jump into a creative world, place a couple blocks down until you can get a feel for whatever you want to build. After you get that feel check done out of the way, then it's time to jump over to your survival world and try and start building the build. For me, friends, today that's kind of what I did. I messed around in a creative world and came up with this cool looking roof slope that I think would be really nice to have in our build. If, of course, I can get it in on the build perfectly flawlessly the first time. Aha, I think that's it. You see, I want to have a small subtle slope, gets a little bit more slopier, and then whoa, extremely slopey at the top. Then it copies the same slope and goes back down to the bottom. That's going to get that cabin vibe, nice and strong. I think it'll look nice. Taking a break from roof proper for a second, over on the side of the roof to kind of like finish everything up here. This is what I'm thinking. We're gonna have a couple logs like laying sideways and I'll strip them. Then we'll have this stuff going straight out all the way over to the middle. Up on the top of the build at some point, what I think I want to try and do here, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Maybe like step it in a block or two. But I think I want to have a little bit more depth than some white wool going on. If I continue this stuff straight back in, and hopefully that'll work out, I'll end up with like a small little triangle. Another roof tip I've got for you. If you're working with roof lines that might be a little bit more advanced here, like for example, one slope and then two slopes, offset them a little bit. Don't make them line up like perfectly exactly. And by offset them a little bit, I mean like this one sits a little bit lower and it sticks out. Now higher up on this roof, what I think I want to do is maybe take more slabs right here and basically follow the roof line that I built exactly, except this time I'm going to step it up one block. No matter what I end up doing with this thing in the middle, by stepping it up one block right now, I'm immediately starting to add more detail to the thing. And as always, you know the rule. When I do it on one side, I jump over to the other side and do it again. Exactly the same. Now after that, just like I did on the lower part of the roof, I'm going to come back in here and do the exact same thing. We got our dark oak outline. Now I'm going to fill in the middle with oak. That'll look good. Making sure I don't have things perfectly lining up all the way up the build, I'm going to step this next dark oak outline in one block. I think having it all line up perfectly would look a little bit weird. Now as I start to continue the rest of the roof up here, I can tell you one big thing. And that's going to be that this middle spot right here, oh, that's going to be really flat and samey looking if I were to fill this all in with oak slabs like I did down low. To make all of our scary problems go away and fix it all forever, while also just about finishing up the roof here, I'm going to pull a handy little trick out of my bag that I call more roof. If you have a flat area on your roof that looks a little bit plain, or you think it will, then try building another roof popping out of that same roof, going in the opposite direction. At first it may sound a little bit confusing, but it's actually pretty simple. I'm basically going to put a box in the middle of this roof and then make a different slope and have that slope eventually ease smoothly into the slope that I already have going. Oh boy, that's a lot of slopes. And just because I'm a big fan of doing this to roofs, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and add 2 more to the roof too, on either side, the left and right. But I guess we'll see, hopefully it works. This one will be a little bit smaller, we'll keep it more simple. We'll go up with a couple spruce logs, and then we'll do dark oak staircases. They match again, like pretty much perfectly. After that, to make the top of the roof start to look a little bit more interesting, I've got this awning. I'll put something dark back there to make it look deep, and then I'll start to like curve the roof up a little bit. For example, a fancy looking thing on the top of the roof. It just hit me. A little bit of a stroke of inspiration. What if maybe on the top of the roof right here, I'm doing like this curve looking thing that could look pretty cool? Well, what if I cave in here and put like dark oak right there and dark oak right there and made some kind of like cool looking like, I don't know, it's like a split in the roof line. I think from around the base, something like that might look pretty cool. And you know what? While we're at it, let's keep the creative vibes flowing. What about over here? This is very interesting looking, but we could make it a little bit more cool looking. What if maybe I did a staircase, something like that? Then I could do a staircase, maybe like that, or maybe even the other direction. The other direction might look a little bit better. I have a staircase hanging off like that. I could take this out. I have another staircase hanging off like that. Maybe a slab right there. I'm trying to create like a small arch. I don't know if you can tell, but like, yeah. Look, small arch hanging off the thing. Maybe to finish it all off, a staircase looking away like that. Ho, that could be really fancy. I'm gonna try it on the other side, and maybe that'll look great. But I guess we'll see.
One hour later.
Lads, a little bit of time later, and we're now looking at a build that looks something like that right there. I don't know about you, but the vibes, I'm liking them. I think it feels so good, especially with that big mountain behind it. Now look, it's not ideal, but for now, I went ahead and put cherry logs in those inside spots right there. Ideally, I would do something like black concrete, black wool, but I'm just not in that position, at least not over here at this base quite yet. Getting a little bit closer to the build, trust me, on the back of the roof, I did some details. There you go, I showed them, and then up on the top of the roof, I did those cool curves. I think it's awesome looking. Now on the inside of the house, come on, let's be serious. You don't want to watch a 47-minute long video from me on building, so this is probably what it's going to look like for the most part. At least today. Oh, buddy, but it's time to get into our detailing and building bag here. Right now, it'd be valid to say that our build is looking, but 100% we could make this build looking a little bit better. Barrels. Barrels are absolutely amazing for detailing. What we're going to do here is place a couple barrels in here, facing down or facing up on your build, doesn't really matter, but those are going to look nice. They're a really interesting looking block, and actually, conveniently, they perfectly match with spruce wood. The next time you're detailing your build and trying to finish it up, everything like that, do me a quick favor and keep things like barrels in mind. Keep things like barrels in mind, a beautiful non-traditional detailing block. They fit really, really well with spruce, and also keep things like fence gates in mind as well. Fence gates are so cool looking. Right here on my porch, I've got a porch. I got a huge opportunity for just fences. But instead of plain old fences, to spice it up a little bit more and add a very subtle minor arch in here, I'll put fence gates in the middle. Fence gates are going to look really, really good here. And like I said, create that subtle arch. Up top, oh boy, speaking of arches, I like arches. We can put a slab right there with a fence gate in the middle. The fence gate will almost look like the barrel is like continuing straight through. And then the arch, I mean, come on, it's an arch. You can't go wrong. In a world of subtle little build hacks that we kind of already talked about and established today, dark oak wood and spruce logs, they match like pretty much perfectly. We could put dark oak right there and then a trapdoor on top to make another small subtle arch. Do you think I like arches? An amazing, amazing thing for detailing your build and maybe finishing it up. Oh, it's going to be trapdoors. Any type of trapdoor is different from the other types of trapdoors. The spruce trapdoors in specific, they're probably my favorite. If you have a spot on your build that is looking a little bit flat and you want it to look a little bit less flat, trapdoors, it's a very subtle, minor way to make it look a little bit more interesting. And speaking of build areas that look really flat and boring, this spot right here. To make it look more interesting, we could not only break those blocks out, but maybe those top ones as well. Aha! Much better. No, I'm only kidding. Don't leave it looking like that. Instead, maybe we could do something like that and then put glass panes or maybe even fences in the middle if that was the vibe that I wanted to go for. Rapid fire round. Back over here up on a porch, we got a interesting looking wall. I did a little bit of logs on the side down there earlier on to make it look good, but to make it look even gooder, we could do staircases like that. Of course, that means over on the inside it'll cause a small problem, but to fix the small problem, extra blocks right there. And I'll worry about making it look better from the inside later on. Just in general, really, if you ever have a flat spot on your build that you really wish could look a little bit better, try using staircases. Maybe put them like going that way, maybe take them out if it doesn't look too good and put them going the other way. But yeah, staircases, a great secret to making your wall look a little bit more interesting. Glass panes. In between cuts, I made a long trek all the way down to the nearest beach. We're gonna put glass panes on the windows here to make it look a little bit more like fully finished and good looking. Proper clean, if you will. Oh, and how could I almost forgot. I need fences right there too. And I think to make it look cool, I'll have them continue straight up. Lads, I've got it. To finish up this part of the build over here and make it so I could like have a window and everything, all I need to do is spill the cherry wood out a little bit farther. Now over here on this side of the build, I've actually struck a couple different predicaments. Predicament number 1, I don't want mobs to get into the window, but I want to leave it open. To make that happen, all I need to do is trap doors right there. That'll make it so a baby zombie can't fit through this gap. Make it a safe. Predicament number 2. I always dreamed of a chimney on this house. I think a chimney will make it feel real nice and homey. However, I have a cool spirally thing right there, so I'm not really going to be able to do the chimney of my dreams going straight up. Instead, we're going to have to get a little bit more creative here. What I think I could maybe do is cut a chimney off at the side of this build, almost in like a steampunky style, if you will. I'll have this chimney go up a couple blocks, and then I don't have the staircases, so I'll be right back. The staircases, so look, I feel like I maybe mentioned this little build hack earlier on inside of this world, maybe not though. We're gonna do a staircase like that on a random block. Then we're gonna turn around this formation and keep doing that. Then, once we get back to this block, we'll pull it out, put a staircase right there, and check this out. Right there, we just created one of the coolest, most subtle looking chimneys. To make the chimney actually a chimney though, we're gonna put campfires on this thing. That'll look really good, but it's gonna cause a little bit of damage, so we're gonna jump off of the thing. To fully solid up this chimney and make the campfires look intentional here, we'll put a couple signs on the side of this thing. That'll look great. Now, there is one big thing that I don't know about here with this chimney, kind of just banking on it working, but a steampunky vibe with it like cutting off to the side. Oh boy. I mean, for starters here, block variation. We can come in here and break out some of these things, put stone, andesite, stuff like that. It'll look good with the cobblestone. To follow up here, maybe to connect the chimney to the rest of the build, what I could do is swap out this bottom layer for a little bit of a logs. What if I drop some logs right there? To blend it in, what if I strip some logs? Right there. To finish it up a little bit, what if I took some fences and wrapped them around too? And up top, it's sad but true, it's too flat. How about some more like spruce wood, curving up a little bit and just some trap doors. Ooh. Couple more signs on this bad boy. Few slabs slapped on the bottom. And voila! I mean, it's a chimney. I don't think it's bad at all. It's kind of cool looking, interesting, lots of stuff going on. That looks good. And it also reminded me of that spot right there. Fences. I said it before, I'll probably say it a million trillion more times. Fences, they're one of the most interesting, detailed looking things in the game. To detail any good part of a build quickly, slap some fences on it. Back over on the front of the build, I'm still not overly happy with this spot on the wall. I think we could probably do a whole lot better. So let's see what we could do. Let's open this up and try and come in here with some staircases. Maybe one there, and then over on the other side, the same thing. Keep it symmetrical. Could turn one there. That'll make a solid border. Very crisp. Same thing there. That could be cool. Maybe right over the door, we could do something like that. Ooh, that could be really cool. And turn it like that. Ah, this is tricky, but maybe to solid that up, we could do more slabs right there. Then we get a big, wide windows, or two of them, with a vertical half slab. What? Then what about up top if we did like another window? We could do more slabs like that, or staircases, excuse me, something in the middle. And then staircases, not like that though. And oh, I got it, the middle, the very final thing on the top of the entrance for our base here. That right there, strip it. Ooh, that's clean. So clean. Now there is another thing that I would love to come back here on the house and add to it, but because of farms that I want to build, maybe even next episode, I don't have the iron for it, but lanterns. You hang lanterns on a porch, it's beautiful. And also, other decorations on the porch, that could look really good too. For now, I don't really have like cool things like pots and a bunch of stuff, so I could use workstations. Workstations are basically like the cheap, poor man's way to detail up a build. They're very interesting looking blocks, even things like a crafting table, and they just like, they kind of look cool. For now, I guess that'll be porch decoration number 1, and number 2, it's not much, but I guess it looks cool. I promise, guarantee you, later on we'll come back in and get some really cool looking decorations. Maybe dragon egg, no, we'll put that in a building. Armor stand with trimmed armor and, you know, a bunch of cool things like that. Maybe even an egg or two of sorts. Interesting. Now, eventually, I think we'll have rest of base spill out that way for the most part. So we'll start to set up a small little path, something like that. And then finally, basically for today's episode, we gotta finish up the build with a little bit more life. Plants, flowers, leaves, something in front of the build to make it look a little bit more, yeah, you know, like alive, something like that. Now, I gotta be honest, actually, spruce leaves are not my first choice. Ideally, I think I would like to do like flowering azalea leaves or something, but for now, a couple spruce leaves out front of the thing, I mean, it's not bad. It finishes up the build in a nice way. Of course, we got these really nice looking pink flowers that we could probably mix in here and get really good looking, you know, just every once in a while, something like that. Fix up these blocks right there. Bones, so you come with me. And just like that, with a little bit of time, practice, patience, and building. And of course, maybe most importantly, with the right build tricks, it's very possible to make a super simple shaped house look, in my opinion, pretty humbly beautifully. Now, real quick, for today's comment of the day, I'm throwing it back, all the way back to the dragon episode. In the dragon episode, I have since realized that I said something completely wild and off the rails, and sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I need to apologize. Today's comment of the day: how does invisibility help with the dragon fight? I've never heard of that, but I assume it does something with Enderman. So, I said invisibility. I think I meant to say strength. I went back and took a look at it, and definitely, a strength potion is great for the dragon fight, and I didn't mention it. Invisibility for a dragon fight? Well, I have a question for you. Will that actually work? Like, could it help? So, friends, for Minecraft Guide, episode 23, the establishment of the base over here, that's what we got. I mean, I don't know, you let me know what you think down below, but I think the build turned out pretty nice. There are a couple more finer, more expensive irony details that we could add to the build that, you know, 100% we'll do later on, but for today, the basics of this thing is not bad. Oh, and remember also, there is a fully finished interior. You just completely blanked out on that part of the video. Yeah, I'll show you later. Thank you all so much for watching Minecraft Guide episode number 23. It's been me, Waddles. I hope you enjoyed. Smash like, subscribe. What farm do you think we could be working on in the next episode? Call it down below. And until tomorrow, lads, you go have a good day. I'll see you then. Goodbye.